Welcome to Greensboro Public Library's program for student athletes. This program is sponsored by the Greensboro Public Library Foundation. My name is Amber Covington, the Information Services and Collection Development Manager. This evening, we are presenting Boosting Athletic Careers in NIL, Name, Image, and Likeness. The guest speaker, Tyler Jordon of Champsraise, will share information for high school athletes and caregivers seeking information to create an NIL. At this time, I will turn it over to Tyler to begin his presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Jordon, and I'm the founder and CEO of Champsraise, which is a crowdfunding platform for college athletes to raise money for their favorite charities and fans in need. We primarily target college athletes who do not have the resources to form their own nonprofit or their own foundation. So more of your middle market and lower tier athletes. And we help them impact any causes they care about on a micro and macro level to be able to develop their brands. So what is NIL? This is across the industry, since it was formed a few years ago out of the Supreme Court ruling. There's a lot of misinformation and undereducation about the industry, but it really is just refers to the rights of college athletes to monetize and profit from their personal brand, which consists of their name, image, and likeness. One of the things that has really given the industry a really bad reputation that is unfortunately a really big part of NIL is pay for play, where a booster school will pay an athlete to stay at their school or to transfer to their school. To prevent this, every NIL deal has a deliverable. The deliverable must be executed before the athlete is paid. But in a lot of pay-for-play situations, which I'll go over in this presentation, a lot of these inducements are masked as NIL deals where a deliverable is provided to make it legal. Just a few of your examples of some standard NIL deals that you will frequently see in the space: autographs and memorabilia, camps and clinics. A lot of athletes like to host community-oriented events for elementary school and middle school kids to teach them particular skills. And then merchandise. A very common thing in the space is for athletes to have their own t-shirts, sweatshirts, toboggans, hats, all variety of sorts that are tailored toward their brands. Their favorite logos, colors, the whole bit. And then the most common one that I see is brand ambassador, where an athlete works with a local, what is most oftentimes a local business to promote them. Such as a local car dealership, where in that case, the most common thing that you'll see is they will give the athlete a vehicle for a year or two, usually a test, has a time limit on it, and the athlete does not pay for the vehicle. The deliverable in this case is to simply just promote the car dealership. How NIL deals typically work. There is, whenever an NIL deal is between a business or an individual fan, which can sometimes be the case, there's always a contract to outline the terms and expectations, such as how much the athlete would be paid, when they'll be paid, what deliverables are expected. Do never engage in any sort of NIL deal without a contract in place, because that is a really easy way to get burned. A really easy way to put a lot of labor and effort into something and potentially never get paid for it. Once the athlete delivers what is expected, they will receive the payment, which can sometimes be an in-kind payment. Such as if it's a service-based business, then the athlete receives services for free, such as promoting a law firm and getting some legal services for free in return. But the most important part of any NIL deal is making sure they're compliant. Every state and every university has their own policies since there's not really a federal standard at this point. But it is really important to check with your university if you're ever in doubt about any sort of deal that you're engaging in. And a lot of universities require athletes to report the deals to the university. So North Carolina, as you all may know, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association passed a proposal to adopt a specific NIL policy for high school athletes, which has been pretty common across the country. Many states have, since this issue has been left up to states and not the federal government, have enabled high school athletes to monetize their NIL. However, the proposal is under review by the state board, so it's currently not implemented, and there's not a specific timeline on when this may change. So here's some tips to win an NIL as a high school athlete in case the North Carolina policy changes to where high school athletes can monetize their NIL, and if not, just some general rules of thumb on how to achieve success in the space as a college athlete. First and foremost, stay out of trouble with the law and your school, and do not post any profanity or inappropriate content on social media. Brands, especially local businesses, want a spokesperson for their business or product that is well revered within the community, is an upstanding citizen, and represents and shares a lot of those same values as them. And any sort of inappropriate contact is a pretty easy way to get written off, to not have a chance at any brand deals. Engaging with the community, since a lot of these deals are with local businesses, is a really good way to increase your awareness amongst your potential brand partnerships target audiences. So one of the things that I help my athletes do pretty often on my platform is I help them support a charity or fan in need within their university's community. And that helps them get some really good social media traction, good news coverage. And then a lot of these athletes like to parlay that success and increased awareness and increased brand development strength to go out and pitch local businesses for deals. But the biggest thing really in having a good shot at getting an NIL deal is to have a strong social media presence. Instagram and TikTok are great. X is significant, but not as relevant as Instagram and TikTok, since those are the primary platforms to create really unique social media content. And the larger following that you have on social media increases your value to a brand and the amount of money that they could pay you. And it also increases your credibility to where you could work with larger and larger brands depending on your social media following. But one really good way to really be able to help you align with businesses for deals is to identify what you're passionate about and what makes you unique, and then create social media content around that. So for instance, if you like ice cream, create social media content where you try different ice cream flavors at several local businesses, rate them and explain which ones you like the best and why. Then reach out to a local ice cream shop and pitch them on a partnership, highlighting your social media following, community involvement, and your authentic passion and knowledge of ice cream, and your social media metrics from any content that you've promoted with ice cream. And that would be a really good way to help potentially seal the deal on a partnership with a local business. Who facilitates NIL deals for athletes? NIL collectives, which are basically booster groups that are aligned with a specific university to provide that university's athletes with NIL opportunities. I look at NIL broken up in two different areas. Your typical brand deals, which agents and marketplaces help with, and then roster retention, which is where an enhancement, which is where what I refer to with NIL collectives. NIL collectives basically exist to help a university retain their top athletes and to entice significant athletes from other schools or high school recruits to go to that school. And then marketplaces, that is your typical open doors influencer marketplaces like that. They oftentimes do facilitate commercial level deals, but most of the time it's with local businesses. What is an NIL collective? Collectives, which are independent of a university, could serve a variety of purposes. Most often, they pull funds from boosters of businesses, help facilitate NIL deals for athletes, and also create their own ways for athletes to monetize their brands. There are over 200 for-profit and NIL collectives across the country. Over 70% of NIL transactions are from collectives to athletes. So with the nonprofit collectives, you're going to see athletes getting compensated to promote and fundraise for local charities in the community, while the for-profit ones focus more on working with car dealerships, helping their athletes get cars, more of your high-end deals. This is just another example. Most of your Power 5 athletes are going to command a pretty significant salary from collectives, while a group of fives, it's getting a little bit better, but there's really not much of a compensation level for athletes with collectives at group of 5 schools. I would say that your average quarterback at a Power 5 school is making no less than $100,000, and at a group of 5 school, maybe 50. But that's all going to, these numbers are changing about every year. In the first year of NIL deal, a lot of collectives were overspending, but now they're getting a better idea of what athletes are really worth and what they should really be paying them to achieve their end goal. But as more startups come out that provide these collectives with and a pretty accurate analysis on what their athletes are worth or what prospective recruits are worth, you'll see these figures continue to change, but will become pretty solidified in the next 2 to 3 years. One of the things that you see the most common with NIL collectives is pay for play, where they will ask an athlete to, or induce an athlete to go to their school or to stay at their school if they're already there. But as I noted earlier, pay for play is illegal, but what is most often happens with NIL collectives inducing an athlete is they mask it as an NIL deal where they'll say, hey, we'll give you $100,000 to come to our school. And they'll pay you that $100,000, but it'll be in the form of promoting the collective, or maybe they'll facilitate a deal with a local business that will pay that. But this is a very risky game because most of the contracts for an inducement with a collective allow the collective to terminate it at any time, which could occur as soon as the athlete falls through on their own and transfers to a respective university. For example, Jordon, who was one of the top quarterback recruits a few years ago, was offered $13 million to go to the University of Florida. And the contract enabled the collective to, in its sole and absolute discretion, to terminate the agreement without penalty or further obligation, which they did weeks before Rashada was supposed to enroll at the university. However, these collectives notoriously offer 6 to 7 figures to athletes that transfer to the school, which is common for athletes coming off strong seasons, especially if it's an athlete at a smaller school that was under-recruited and then really hit it off big once they got to school. NIL inducements they do happen with high school athletes, but they're much less common. But even there are a lot of risks associated with this, but I would be wrong if I would tell you that it's not worth at least exploring it. So, if you do decide to go this route, if you are offered a large sum of money from a collective at a significant university, you need to understand the risks that are involved. You need to understand that you could ultimately get burned from the collective. They could terminate the agreement after you've already transferred there and everything, and you may never get the amount of money that you were promised. You could get in trouble from the NCAA and jeopardize your eligibility. But if you are in this situation and you really decide to go down this path, I highly encourage you to seek a lawyer to go through the contract that was provided to you by the collective, and you must talk to a lawyer before you ever sign this. Some lawyers will help local athlete pro bono. Others may want a cut of future earnings. I have a really good friend that's an NFL agent and a former merger and acquisitions attorney who helped facilitate several multi-million-dollar deals. And he provides pro bono legal services to college athletes. I'd be glad to share his contact information to look over any sort of agreements that you are offered in the NIL landscape. What is an NIL agent? They help navigate the turbulent waters of the NCAA, state, and university laws, protect their clients' rights and livelihood, and represent the athlete during business and partnership negotiations. Many states consider individuals who negotiate endorsement contracts on behalf of athletes to be sports agents. Since the NIL landscape started a few years ago, there are a lot of people who may have grown up with a particular athlete who is really good and is commanding a lot of attention. And that may seem like a good opportunity to work with one of your childhood friends, but there's a lot of things, or someone that may seem really flashy that they have it all together, but there's a lot of red flags to look out for when you're hiring an agent. First and foremost, do your research on the agent. A good question to ask yourself is, have they secured many brand partnerships for college athletes? Do they have a strong record of growing their athletes' brands? Most of this is pretty noticeable and pretty easy to find if you just look at the agency's Instagram. If good agents frequently show off brand deals they've secured with their athletes. And then if you click on any of their athletes' their profiles, you should really check out to see if they, one, have a good following, two, if they're posting any unique content, not just themselves playing ball, but really who they are off the court or field, which is what really drives brand partnerships and helps put a lot of money in athletes' pockets. And agents, the ones who are responsible for helping the athletes put all that together. And I would also make sure that the agent has a really good, strong grasp of NIL, institutional, and NCAA policies, so that they never enter your athlete into a deal that could ultimately jeopardize their eligibility. And then I've heard horror stories of some athletes signing with agents that take 30 to 40%, which is absurd. Never sign with an agent wanting more than 20% of an athlete's income. And then make sure the agent is registered in the state of which the athlete attends school. So if an agent from California hits you up and your son is attending the University of North Carolina, make sure they're registered in the state of North Carolina. And you could usually quickly find this out through a quick search on the Secretary of State's website. And if you can't, I recommend calling the Secretary of State, and they will gladly tell you if the person is or is not registered.
Thanks, everyone, for attending this program.